Hello, welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick. In this video we're going to be comparing the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3 to the best of the rest. So basically in this video we're going to compare the Wave Rebellion Pro 3 to what we think are the top carbon plate racing shoes on the market. So we do a lot of versus videos for shoes on the channel where we compare one shoe to the other, but there are so many carbon shoes out there. The Mizuno, we just got through testing. We thought it might be good to try and do all the comparisons in one long video. So me and Tom will be talking it through in a second. Just run through the design first quickly. The Wave Rebellion Pro 3 costs £210 or $250. It weighs in at 238 grams or 8.4 ounces. That's in my UK size 9, which is a US 10. It has a 4mm drop from heel to toe, based on the stack height measurements of 40mm at the heel and 36mm at the forefoot. Those measurements can kind of go out the window, I think it's fair to say, with this shoe, because the midfoot is the tallest part of the shoe. I think it's been measured at over 60mm, so Mizuno's kind of got around the rules with the way it's got that heel cut out there. But yeah, so I would kind of ignore that stack height. It feels very different when you're landing on that midfoot and rolling through there. The midsole is made from Mizuno's nitrogen-infused Energy XP foam. You've got a very springy foam in the midsole, it's fair to say, and you've got a carbon-infused wave plate running through that midsole. And the geometry of the shoe is obviously a very big factor in how it rides. It's Mizuno's Smooth Speed Assist rocker, which is, they set at different levels of aggression, and this is one of the more aggressive rockers you'll find on a Mizuno shoe, as you'd expect in their top racing shoe. You have a mesh upper with a little bit of padding around the back of the shoe and a tiny bit of kind of reinforcement at the heel, but not too much structure there. And then you've got G3 rubber used to cover most of the outsole. Fairly big cutout at the back of the shoe there, though it's a bit smaller than it has been on some of the previous models of the Wave Rebellion Pro. All right, Tom's in the house now.
Yep.
Here he is. We're going to quickly talk about the fit of the shoe. Tom, how does the shoe fit for you?
I found this fits very nicely. I'm a size 8 in the UK. This it's for a race shoe. I actually find it to be a little bit roomier than a lot of the race shoes that I've got. There's definitely a bit more space before the big toe than I normally have in a lot of race shoes. So I found it very comfortable. I've not had any problems with slippage or anything like that. So I'd stay to my size in this shoe.
I think length, completely fine for me. I've got my normal UK 9 here, US 10 with Mizuno, and yeah, no concerns at all about the length. Heel is a bit choppy, I find. I think it's caused blisters and stuff like that on me in each of my runs. So the first run was a little bit kind of, I could feel it going, but it was okay. And then the second run on the track, I had to take it off and swap to a different shoe because I tried heel locking it, which actually made the problem much worse. Then got rid of the heel lock, did a couple more runs under controlled environment, so treadmill and track, where I knew I could take it off, and it was kind of okay, but I put plasters on for the third run. So I think if you're someone who finds that shoes sometimes tend to blister your Achilles, this is a shoe that might do it, because it's quite a high heel collar and not quite as flexible as you might expect for a race shoe. But in terms of length, I'd stick to your normal size. Right, we'll have a very quick run test, just talking through experience of the shoe before we dive into the massive versus all the other shoes out there. So, Tom, you had the shoe longer than all of us. So, yeah, what kind of running have you done with it? What have you enjoyed about it, and what have you maybe not enjoyed?
I love this shoe. I think it's great fun. I've not actually done a half marathon or marathoners. I've only really trained in this shoe. I think I did a 10k actually, from memory. But what I found about this shoe is that it's very much a progression of the second version of the shoe. It's very bouncy, very fun. It works really well for my running style, and I really enjoy all sorts of runs in this. I like doing faster training sessions in it. I think I would be happy to race in it, but we'll go into this in a bit with the versus. There's reasons why I would pick other shoes over this for racing half marathons and marathons, but I do think it's a really nice shoe. Every time, because I've done quite a few videos on this now, I always mention you because your running style is very different than mine, and I think that's probably going to have an impact on how you view this shoe. But for me, it works really well. I find it very comfortable, and I think it's a better long distance race shoe than the previous version.
Yeah, I mean, it's super bouncy. I think the key to this shoe is the trigger point on the rocker, basically. So if you're hitting that naturally, it works beautifully, and I kind of do hit it naturally because it's kind of a rear midfoot. I think sometimes people call themselves rear midfoot strikers. They don't want to call themselves heel strikers, but I'm a heel striker, and that's where I land because that's what it is. There's no such thing as the rear midfoot, and so I find it works really well. I do get into a nice rhythm with it. I think I prefer it much more at kind of marathon pace. I've done some fast stuff in it as well. I find, because I'm a high turnover runner, it's not a shoe that really wants to turn over high. It wants to basically really settle into that bouncy, cruisy style. So at more marathon pace, I've enjoyed it. I think it's really fun, really fast, really bouncy. Just a little bit like the Endorphin Elite 2, just a shoe I'm a bit more aware of, and I find a little bit more tiring maybe over the course of long distances. That's something I definitely would have in mind if I was looking at racing a marathon in it. It's just, as I'm starting to not feel so cruisy and starting just to kind of suffer a bit, am I going to really want to lock into this very prescribed way of running that it provides? But I think it's really fast. I think it's faster than its weight because it is quite a heavy shoe. It would be interesting if Mizuno just made a normal size shoe with this foam to see how light it was, because it's quite light given the ridiculous stack height. But I do, yeah, like I said, I find it much more as a loping shoe. Like I've done quite a bit of pace. Mizuno says it's targeted at sub 2.5 hour marathoners, which is, I think, a bold marketing strategy. But I've done a lot of running in it at that exact pace because it's around the pace I run in training when I'm training for marathons, and it does feel very good at that pace. I don't necessarily think that you should market anything based on time, because people run at that time at very different styles and different ways. But yeah, I do think it's one that works if you basically settle into that sweet spot, keep hitting it. It feels fantastic. As soon as you kind of from that or start to get tired, I'm not sure it's quite as effective as some other shoes.
Yeah, the thing I always think about this shoe is that when you compare it with other shoes that are very nippy and fast, it doesn't feel nippy and fast. It feels like a shoe that you can lock in and get a nice, comfortable, bouncing momentum going, especially if you're running, like a marathon pace. But I always think with this, it feels like you get a bit more airtime than you need for faster paces. It's like you're bouncing off and then you're sort of waiting for it to come back down again to do it again. You can't really do a fast... I wouldn't definitely use it for like a 5K or a mile or anything like that. It's far too... too bouncy, probably.
Yeah, I think it's reasonably stable actually for such a big shoe. I have done corners in it. I did do one session of the treadmill on it. That was ludicrous. Bouncing on a treadmill in a shoe this bouncy was insane. But really good shoe around. Anyway, I think the more important stuff is how it compares to other shoes. We both enjoyed running in it. Both thinks it has certain limitations. We'll probably draw those out a bit more when we talk about how it compares to the rest of the market. Okay, key section of the video here, the verdict and alternatives, I guess it would be. What we're going to do is basically run through a list of shoes I have here. This is not an exhaustive list of all the carbon shoes on the market. I'm mostly going for a brand's latest version. They're probably the best running shoe we think in their range. And if there's an inkling that shoe's about to be updated, I've probably not included that either. So we'll start with the Asics, the Metaspeed Sky Paris and Edge Paris. The Sky Paris has been topping our list of carbon shoes for a while. Quite a different approach to racing shoes though, Tom.
Yeah, the Asics. I've only used the Metaspeed Sky Paris, but very different, very nippy, very quick, very light on the feet. That plate feels very quick, responsive to running at speed, and it's a very versatile shoe as well. I think this is a very different shoe. It's a lot bouncier. It's not as nippy. It just doesn't feel nippy. I think it's really. It's not nippy at all. Two very different shoes. Although the Metaspeed Sky does have a nice bit of cushioning in, but it doesn't do the same sort of bounce that this shoe does. Yeah,
this is a more comfortable shoe than the Metaspeed Sky Paris, I guess. I prefer, obviously, the Metaspeed Sky Paris is my favourite shoe. The Edge Paris has got similar properties to it compared to this shoe, which, like Tom says, it's firmer, more responsive, really good for turning over and getting a really quick feel from the plate, like Tom says. But it's not, probably if you've got really bouncy cushion shoes, the Mizuno gives a bit more of that. The Asics feels a lot more natural on the foot, I would say, as well. Like, you don't really have to run exactly the same way, the right way to unlock its benefits like you do with the Mizuno. So I think that suits my style a bit better, the Asics. It's just, like I said, a faster feeling shoe, less bouncy though. Then the Adios Pro 4, Tom, you've not tested this one, right?
No.
So the Adidas Adios Pro 4 is another bouncy shoe. It's not bouncy as this. It's probably in between the Asics and the Mizuno, I think it's fair to say. You've got a bit of bounce there, but it is also a much lighter shoe than the Mizuno, like the Asics is. Suits a high turnover style as well, but you've got quite a soft foam, especially at the heel with the Light Strike Pro. Nice amount of response from the energy rods. I think, again, it's probably a shoe that I'd view as a more effective racer than the Mizuno, especially for short distances. And a lot of talk on our channel in the comments about it losing its bounce after about kind of 80, 100k. I think there's been some videos elsewhere talking about that. I think I'm at about 80k in mine, and it still feels really good. But yeah, that might be something to look out for. I don't think Mizuno will ever lose its bounce. It's the bounciest shoe ever made, probably. But again, Adidas, I think, just a better, more effective racing shoe for me. I prefer it and the Asics over the Mizuno just because they're lighter and faster to turn over. Then we've got the Brooks Hyperion Elite 4 PB, a shoe that we've been really big fans of, I think it's fair to say. Tom, what do you reckon about that compared to the Mizuno?
Love that shoe. Really impressed with it. I was surprised how impressed I was because I haven't tested many of the earlier versions of the race shoes from Brooks. Quite similar in comparison that the Asics Metaspeed Sky would get. It feels nippier. It feels quicker. I think it's probably less less responsive, so it probably sits more closer to the Mizuno than the Metaspeed Sky for me. But I think it's the Mizuno and the Asics Metaspeed Sky and the Brooks Hyperion Elite 4 PB are sort of one end of the spectrum. I think this is completely the other.
Yeah, it's a flatter, more natural feeling shoe. Like you've got a nice foam in there, but it doesn't feel weird when you put it on. Really, it feels like really fast, but quite natural. Again, really good foam in there. Like Tom says, nippy, turns over well, a lot lighter than Mizuno, but certainly less bouncy. I think I'd probably put them at a similar level, just different styles of shoes. I think they're both going to deliver a very high level of performance, but the Brooks is going to work for a lot more runners very easily because it's just quite a normal shoe. It's going to work on courses with lots of twists and turns and just feel a bit more natural for 5K speeds. Mizuno is an absolute tank of speed for those long distances, but yeah, it might not work for so many runners. So and also the Brooks is very cheap in the UK, I think, so I might recommend that one over the Mizuno as well. Next up, we've got the Hoka X1 2.0, a shoe we've all been pretty impressed with, I think, this year. Tom, you've destroyed yours after one run, I believe?
Destroyed it, but I've covered the whole heel in shoe goo, so it seems to be okay now.
Lovely. Okay, what do you think of it compared to the Mizuno?
I really like it from what I've done in it so far. I do think it is very bouncy, and it's very tippy. It's a very difficult shoe to walk in normally, as is the Mizuno. And they both have a similar sort of tipping point, I think, where you can sort of feel that shape of the midsole kind of rocking you over. I think, again, like we said with the other ones, the Hoka is definitely a shoe that's designed for faster, short distances as well. And I think it does just feel faster on the feet. But I do think there's a similar level of bounce in both of them.
Yeah, I feel so actually. I think the Hoka is almost what I would consider the racing version of a shoe like this to be in it. It's got all that bounce, but into a lighter, smaller, nimbler package, basically, that feels a lot more aggressive and ready for race day. So it's got that bouncy rocker, tips you forward, same way the Mizuno does, but the Hoka's got that fast turnover as well. Like, I think the Mizuno's probably a bit closer to the original Cielo X1, although that was much more stable, a bit tamer, whereas the Cielo X1 2.0 feels very aggressive, feels very fast, feels similar bounciness to the Mizuno, but it just feels a bit better for racing for me. I've raced a half marathon in that shoe. I just did my long marathon workout in it at the weekend. The only question I have with the Hoka is it's not that comfortable, I think. I think it's a bit more stripped back. I think the Mizuno will probably give you a bit more comfort over the course of a marathon, but I think the Hoka will be easier to work with in the late stages of a marathon if you're starting to struggle a bit, because it will just turn over a bit better than the big bouncy beast. Right, New Balance SC Elite V4, slightly older shoe now. Not a shoe that we've always praised on the channel, but what do you think of it, Tom?
I think it's fine. I think it's not a shoe that I actively pick up for any races, apart from when I was testing it. I think it's not the most exciting shoe. I think it's a solid all-round race shoe. I think it's a pretty good one for a lot of people. There's not loads of bounce in it. It's not very aggressive, but I think for a lot of people that's good. I think they want a shoe. It reminds you of something like and this is an odd one because I was so obsessed with it, but the Saucony Pro 3. I think it's a similar vibe to that. Like for people who are, want an accessible race shoe, very good one for that. But I don't think it doesn't have any of the sort of bounce or aggressive feel that the Mizuno's got.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's quite a safe shoe. I think it's a shoe that lots of people will get on with. I think it's all right. I just don't think it's fast. I don't feel that fast in the SC Elite V4. I'd rather be in the Mizuno than that shoe for a race, because this makes me feel fast in a very strange and bizarre way, whereas the SC Elite V4 is fast, like I run fast in it, but I don't feel the aggression I want from it. Also, it's got similar kind of heel chopping issues as well to the Mizuno, but Kieran really got done by that one, I think. I think I'd pick the Mizuno over that one myself. Big fish coming up next at the Nike Alphafly 3. Tom, how do you compare that to the Mizuno?
I mean, I'm not a massive fan of the Alphafly 3. I know you are. I think the Alphafly 3 is, in comparison, if you compared the original Alphafly to the Mizuno, you'd get a much more similar comparison, because the original Alphafly was very big and bouncy and you could really feel it. I think the Alphafly 3 is lessened to an extent. It feels a little bit more like it's getting closer to the Wavefly than the original Alphafly to me. And as a result, I think it's very fast. I think it's very lightweight. I think it's a very, very good shoe for certain runners like yourself. But I don't think it doesn't feel like an incredibly bouncy shoe to me. It just feels a little bit nimbler. It's a fantastic shoe, but it just depends what you want. I think it's probably closer to me to, I'm trying to think, the Asics Metaspeed Sky Paris. when you're comparing it to the Mizuno. But I'd go for the Mizuno over the Alphafly.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
I picked the Alphafly 3 over the Mizuno. I think it's just got a faster turnover. I think it's nice and soft at the heel, comfortable, so it works really well for marathons, but you have a really fast transition, nice bit of explosive punch off the toes, and just a very effective racing shoe at any distance. I'd definitely take the Alphafly over the Mizuno. On Cloudboom Strike LS, this is one I've tested. That is another one of the more firmer, responsive breed of carbon shoes, similar to something like the Metaspeed Sky Paris. Really easy to engage the plate, get a nice amount of lift off the toes. It's quite an expensive shoe though, and I think it is a really good shoe. I think it's a faster racing shoe than the Mizuno. If I was just picking one, it was just money was no object, but it's a lot more expensive than the Mizuno. And it's just got a slightly trickier upper in itself. But I think it's a better shoe than the Mizuno. I'd rather race in it. Mizuno's a bit more accessible in terms of price, though. And we haven't tested the standard Cloudboom Strike, so I'm not sure how that shapes up. But it's not as bouncy as the Mizuno either, but it does have a nice responsive feel to it. But it's a shoe I struggle to recommend because for me it's quite similar to the Asics, but the Asics is cheaper and better, so I usually go for that. Puma Deviate Nitro Elite 3, a shoe we're really big fans of all round on the channel. Tom, how does it compare to the Mizuno in particular, ride feel-wise?
I think the Puma Deviate Nitro 3 is a really, really good shoe. Really solid all-rounder in the top tier carbon plate market. I think it's accessible, but I think it's got a nice level of bounce. I think, and it feels very lightweight, but also feels like it's quite relatively stable for a race shoe, a carbon plate race shoe. It's a fantastic shoe. But it feels very efficient. I've done a half marathon in it. I did a really good half marathon in it, which is surprising because I wasn't very fit at the time, and I wasn't expecting to really enjoy the shoe that much. But I would also say it's not like a wow shoe. It's not that aggressive. It's not overly bouncy or anything like that. It's just a solid all-round race shoe that just does the job. So in comparison to the Mizuno, I'd definitely go for the Puma just because it's an all-round great shoe, and great at different speeds as well. I've used that for 10k as well and 5k, so I really enjoyed that for all of those distances, which I wouldn't use the Mizuno for, so I'm going to go for the Puma.
I think it's a better all-distance racing shoe. I think I'd probably rather be in it for the marathon as well. Just again, it's got a slightly more natural ride. It isn't, a wild ride. The Mizuno is much wilder. You step into this, you're in a super shoe, but the Puma is just light, efficient, effective, really good for any distance, I think. Done some really good long runs in that shoe over the winter ahead of Seville because it's got amazing grip as well, which actually Mizuno's got pretty good grip, it's fair to say, but it's a shoe that you'd probably feel a little bit less safe on in icy pavements just because of the whole design than the Puma. So I think it's flat out, I think, a better racing shoe for me than the Mizuno, which is great, really fun if you're in love with the bounce, maybe, but I think the Puma's a bit better. And then we've got the Saucony Endorphin Elite 2. Have you been in this Elite 2 yet, Tom?
No, I still haven't got it. It's the only shoe I've wanted for a long time. I'm desperate for it.
Well, it's so soft, which you are going to love. It's another one. So the Mizuno and the Saucony are the two, just like you step into and you go like, okay, this is bizarre. I'm in a really wild ride. It is so soft and squishy, that foam it has, but it really does bounce back. It is very fast. It makes every other shoe feel weirdly like wooden, even like other super shoes. Except I haven't gone from it to the Mizuno, to be fair. So I think Endorphin Elite 2 is a really good racing shoe. It's just, you're so aware of it all the time. I struggle to sometimes get into a proper rhythm with it, and again, it's not great on corners, and the grip isn't amazing on it either. So I think in certain conditions, it's all right. No, it's amazing. Sorry, it is very fast, and I've loved running fast in it. I think the Mizuno might just edge it for me, just because I really like how bouncy the Mizuno is. If I was looking at marathon, you can just get into the lockstep with the Mizuno and just try and cruise and try and hold it. So I did enjoy running fast in it. I do think it is very fun and fast. I think the Mizuno is more fun, maybe, and aside from the heel chopping issues I had with it, I think I prefer the ride a bit to Saucony. Saucony is very expensive as well, which doesn't help. So that's a close one. And both shoes I like running in, but I'm neither completely in love with. I have some doubts about them, and I think the Mizuno is maybe a bit more fun and worth the doubts if you're looking at marathons in particular. Short distances, probably look at the Saucony, but I would be worried about going around corners fast.
Have you done a marathon in the Mizuno yet?
No, I've done. No, not any of them. So like the first one I used quite a lot. This one I've gone to about 25k, I think, in training runs, and it still felt really good then, but it was all under control. Whereas I'm worried in Mizuno is how it's going to feel in that last 8k marathon.
I'm very scared of using it. It's cropped up many times where I've been doing with Manchester coming up. It could conceivably be a shoe that I would choose for it, but I'm just a little bit scared.
Given how much you've raved about every version of it, you do have to do a marathon at some point. You're going to bite your fears.
I know, but not a marathon that I want a good time in.
One last quick one. the Kiprum KD 900X LD Decathlon Super Shoe. The Mizuno's a better shoe than that. I just haven't really rated that Decathlon shoe. I just don't find it that fast. Don't find the foam that impressive. This is a lot bouncier and faster. But yeah, that's a whip round of the shoes we've tested. We thought we'd compare them to all in one go because we're just not getting around to all the individual verses for this, I don't think. So it's a good shoe all round. I think the problem it has is it's just a little bit there's doubts about it in terms of how you'll feel about using it for these long races in particular. And there's just so many good shoes in the market that I think there's no doubts about. They're just such high performers that it makes it a bit harder to go for this. It's a bit riskier.
And the other thing about it is a big factor of feel in this shoe. You can't quite understand what it feels like running in it until you've tried it, and some people might not like that. It definitely doesn't feel, for some people it's probably not going to be the most stable shoe around. So there's always, it'd be great if you could go and try this on.
I would try it on. Although if you try it on a treadmill, it's going to feel like like you're bouncing to the moon. It's bizarre, but
maybe they'll let you run outside the front of the shop.
Yeah, so a really good shoe. But like most, I think that's probably nearly all carbon shoes these days. It's just the depth of competition makes it hard to be an absolute slam dunk. But yeah, enjoyed running in it for sure.